Welcome to the video. In this video we're going to take a look at these things here. These are the Eachine GoggleOne all-in-one 40 channel FPV goggles. Now we need to say a very big thank you to the team at Banggood.com for sending us these to have a look at. We've already spent quite a bit of time looking at other all-in-one FPV goggles on the channel, and we are very lucky at the moment in that there are lots and lots to choose from, lots and lots of different styles. Now recently we had a look at another set of goggles that were very similar to this, and they were called the Headplay goggles, and you can go and see the review of those. The challenge with some of these is that the enclosure is pretty large, and I'll show you a picture of me wearing these in a second, but it does mean that you get quite a large screen and there's lots and lots of room for all of the gubbins. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to spend a little bit of time going through this and talking about some of the extra pieces you get. The Headplays were quite expensive, I thought, at the time, and these are a lot cheaper, but they have a very similar enclosure, but they come with some extra pieces in the box as well. So I'd like to go through, just quickly talk about the case and how we found these guys to use, go through the features of the goggles themselves, the extras that come in the box. We'll talk about things like the HDMI. I'll show you how to power it on, because it took me about 10 minutes to figure that out the very first time I used these things. And then finally we'll talk about the summary and what we've actually thought of them after using them for a week or two. So the goggles themselves are very, very similar to the Headplay ones that we've already had a look at. They have kind of the expanded polystyrene where you have these big pieces around here that makes it very, very comfortable, and you have this big piece that comes up onto the forehead to help with the weight. The actual weight itself isn't too bad. They've done a much better job than some of the others that we've seen, where the battery is now sat at the back. We'll take a look at the battery in a minute, because I got a couple in this kit, and they're actually quite a nice little idea. On the side you have all of the controls, so you have things for scan, for deciding whether you want the HDMI input. So this one does have HDMI, which is really nice. It has also then going to the AV, which is the AV input is FPV receiver. You have an enter key, which also accesses the menu, and then plus and minus to navigate the menu as well. Underneath the HDMI socket we have a 3.5-inch audio jack, so you can use headphones. There isn't any speakers in this. These vent things that you can see on the top and on the bottom, when you power these goggles up, it actually draws air through the front of the goggles to help keep everything cool. Now the fan isn't silent, but in practice I wasn't really noticing it running when I was wearing them. The power cable comes out of the side of the goggles, goes around the back, and I've just caught it in this piece of Velcro here just so it's easy to plug in. Now normally with goggles like this, as soon as you plug them in, the screen comes on, but these don't. What you have to do, the trick is, you have to press and hold the scan button, the first button on the side. It's pretty tricky having it all black, the camera is underexposing everything. If you press and hold the scan button for 2 odd seconds, the light comes on, and then the goggles boot up, and then you get your image. Now the image itself is similar to the Headplay, lovely big visual image. It's not quite as extreme as the Headplay. I don't know if the lens is a little bit different, but what I have found is that my very slight nearsightedness, which I have, so I can't read closer than about 35 centimeters away from my face. The screen is probably just on the limit of where that feels comfortable. Now the enclosure itself is pretty big, and there's lots of room at the sides, but I would say these, you might struggle to wear glasses in these, because the opening itself is just at the edge of my eyes itself. A nice deep nose cut out here, which means it does fit on your face, and as you can see in this picture, to get your eyes in the middle I kind of have to have the tip of my nose kind of stuck in here, so if it slides down I tend to have to find I feel like I have to breathe through my mouth. The connections for the antenna on the top, it is one of these style, so it's the one with the pin in the middle. All my antennas that I have unfortunately don't have pins in the middle, so I've been using it with a little adapter, and this little adapter basically has holes on both sides, and that's just screwed onto the top and then allowed me to put my normal Fat Shark style antennas on here. Now as you probably noticed, the hole that the antenna is poking through isn't very well situated at all. It's completely off to the side. So if I was going to use the antennas that came with the kit, it comes with one whip antenna with that kind of connector. I couldn't actually get it on here. The cover is on the way, so I'd have to take a sharp craft knife and X-Acto and just whittle away that side. That's not something that I'd expect on a £115 set of goggles. The other thing as well that I've spotted is that the covering is starting to come off. Now I've actually pushed it back on here, but you can see how buckled it is. This appears just to be a very thin plastic shell that's been stuck over the top of the expanded polystyrene foam. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it. It looks like a Dark Trooper outfit from Star Wars, but I would have rather just had the EPP foam showing rather than have these problems where these little bit of plastic keep popping up and I keep having to push them down. It's also a bit of a magnet for things like grease and fingerprints, and it very quickly starts to look a little bit grubby. So all in all, I think, alright, nice idea, you know, lovely big graphics on the front, and this is a slightly different finish to the one that you can see on the website, but I'd have just preferred to keep it the way it was before, not have to mess around with X-Acto knives. And also on these little stickers you can see here that not all of the ventilation holes are pushed through at the top or the bottom, and it's just things like that that make the goggles feel a little bit unfinished. The auto scan function works quite well. This is a 40 channel set of goggles, so it will support race band. You just press and hold the scan button for about 4 or 5 seconds and it starts scanning through and it will pick up the strongest signal. I personally quite like to be able to go in and to select the individual channels myself. I find that scan is good, but if you're stood with a bunch of mates and somebody else is using a slightly more powerful transmitter or a better antenna, then you tend to pick up their signal first. However, with all of these, and including some of the other goggles that we've seen recently, the trick is if you just walk kind of 20-30 feet away with the quadcopter in your hand and rescan, then you'll almost certainly lock onto that as the strongest signal. One of the things that I do need to talk about are the extras that you get with the goggles, because you do get quite a bit of stuff. As we've already looked at, you do get one whip antenna. Get rid of that and buy yourself some Ionway antennas. You get a couple of batteries. So I got that one and that one. Now the batteries are really quite cool, and they've got a feature on them which I've only seen on other Fat Shark goggles. So the batteries themselves, I'll just pop this one off the back. And again, they're nicely designed so that when they're installed they don't drop through that Velcro pouch. They're charged from a USB cable, which is a great idea. If you just get any kind of little USB charger, you can plug these guys in. You don't need to be messing around with LiPo battery chargers and stuff. Just plug that in and it charges on its own. The other cute part about this as well is that by pressing this button on the top, it gives you a status indicator. So at the moment I've got 2 out of 3 lights lit. When it's fully charged you get 3 lights. It's down to 1 light. It's probably time to change it out. A really cute battery pack that I'm tempted to use on some of my other models. It's 1600 milliamps and it's a 2-cell LiPo battery. Now the fact that we actually get 2 of these in the packet is awesome, because it means that as soon as this one's starting to get low, you can go and stick this one on charge in the car or whatever you've got with you, and then you can swap over to this one, so you don't have to interrupt your flying. Or if you're about to do a nice long flight and you're only kind of at 2 or maybe 1 light, you can swap it over before you start flying. That is a really nice idea, and I wish more vendors did that, because I invariably end up having to buy spare batteries, because Sod's Law says that they'll run out at the most inopportune times, or they'll get low at the most inopportune times. So Eachine, well done for doing that. Other things that come in as well is they actually provide an HDMI cable. Now, although you can get these for a couple of quid, it's amazing how much equipment we get these days with HDMI connectors that don't come with a HDMI cable in the box. So this means that it's going to be easy to connect up to things like the laptop for playing FPV race simulators and things like that, or to plug into stuff to maybe watch movies, because these are really nice for watching films on. The last thing then you get in the packet is obviously the manual. It's a very, very basic manual. It's more about showing you all of the great features and functions. In the display itself, it does have a real-time image of the main battery voltage, so you can watch that countdown. I think that's a really cute idea. It does give a maximum resolution of 1280 by 1080. Obviously, you're not going to get that with your FPV stuff. And then the rest of it is just talking about how fantastic they are, really. But there's all the features and functions. So it does 5.8 gig support, 40 frequencies. That includes race band. You can change the language if you want to. Brightness adjustment, contrast, all the other bits and bobs, and it does talk about the fact that you have the fan in here as well, and that's pretty much it, to be honest. This is the page that I had to find when I couldn't figure out how to turn them on. So to turn it on, then you press scan on for 2 to 3 seconds, the power light will boot, and that'll be in operation about 3 to 5 seconds after you've pressed that button. That was the bit that didn't make sense to me, which is why I've shown you in the video. So in summary, what do I think? I love the fact that you get all these extra things in the packet. I do wish that they would stop putting things like these bloody whip aerials in, because they're absolutely terrible. Having a nice little circular polarized one, something like that Ionways that we love, would be a much more useful thing to have in here. But saying that, the goggles themselves are really nice to use. They're very clear. The screen isn't anywhere near as big as in those head plays, so they're easier to look at. For me, again, it's just on the edge of where I can comfortably see, and about 35 centimeters from my face is where I'm comfortable reading. So if you have a problem reading closer up, these are not going to work for you, because the lens in here is not adjustable. So with the lens not being adjustable, little finishing problems with the cover, things like, this cutout not being very well done, the stickers not having all the holes poked through, and things like these little bits of plastic coming off. They work nicely for FPV. The sensitivity of the receiver seems to be absolutely fine, but at the moment I'd say that this is a very busy part of the market, and we're going to see more and more of these things coming out with more and more features at a lower and lower price point. So if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description and you can go and have a look at these and see what the price is today. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel, and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless 360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.